you in hell.
Batman undoubtedly has one of the best, if not the best, rogue galleries of any comic book character. Whereas most heroes have an arch nemesis and a small handful of memorable foes, Batman's list of compelling, iconic villains is seemingly endless. But what exactly is it that makes Batman's villains so great? In addition to being fun conceptually, there's almost always an effort to establish a specific psychology for each of his enemies. The twisted mind of a villain isn't always the most stable place, however, making many of his foes disturbing on a very human level. So, of all of Gotham's villains, here are some that we think are the absolute creepiest. But before we begin, we post power ranking videos like this every day with the occasional death battle thrown in. If you feel like that is something you'd enjoy, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and sit back and enjoy the video. It's often said that the monster we fear most is actually humanity itself, and that's certainly true of Victor Zsasz. Perhaps the most infamous serial killer in Batman's rogues gallery, Victor Zsasz is the classic combination of dangerous and insane. Often described as the personification of evil, Zsasz not only relishes his sadistic killings, but also sees them as a gift to his victims. Regarding existence as completely meaningless, Zsasz believes his victims have been freed from life, which may explain his proclivity for targeting young women and other innocents. Carving a tally mark into his flesh for each person he's killed, it's clear from a glance that Zsasz's murders number in the hundreds. With no superpowers or enhanced abilities to draw from, it's Zsasz's sharp albeit damaged mind, skill with blades, and utter relentlessness make him an absolute horror show. Waylon Jones was born with a medical condition called epidermalic hyperkeratosis. This affliction caused Waylon's skin to blister when he was a baby. As he aged, more and more of Waylon's skin began to harden and become discolored, making him look like a human crocodile, a comic book take on the real-life disease. Constantly abused as a child by both his caregivers and other children, Waylon grew angrier and angrier. When the time was right, he struck out, taking the life of his first victim, and since then has gone on to become a sewer monster. Croc is essentially a cannibal, who probably would enjoy snacking on a good robin, lurking in the sewers and devouring anyone who crosses his path. He has a particular vendetta against Arkham Asylum security guard Aaron Cash, eating his hand in a particularly unpleasant incident. Laszlo Valentin is a schizophrenic psychotic who is fond of wearing a pig mask, but his evilness doesn't stop at his nightmarish horror movie appearance. Professor Pig is just sick. He turns unwilling, as if anyone would be willing, participants into Dolotrons. He lobotomizes them in the process, robbing them of their humanity and free will and permanently disfiguring them by grafting doll masks to their faces with a collection of power tools. It's really grisly stuff, which is why you don't see him much in outside media, besides video games. If he were ever a villain in a Batman movie, it would be an automatic hard R because he is a villain who, in essence, takes pleasure in mutilating people and performing brain surgery on them. He showed up in Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay, which pushes the envelope about as much as a cartoon movie can, and his appearance is very brief. He is just plain gross, without any of the charm and likability of someone like the Joker. He is sadistic in a way most comic villains usually aren't. Inspired by Lewis Carroll's children's book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Jervis Tetch is a master hypnotist who has convinced himself that he is Carroll's fictional character. His obsession with Alice in Wonderland has manifested itself in Tetch kidnapping women and young girls, often forcing them to become his new Alice. Should they fail to live up to his impossible standards, the Mad Hatter would ensure their deaths. When he's not searching for his latest Alice, Mad Hatter will spend his time manipulating his victims with powerful mind control technology. Writer Chuck Dixon depicts of the Mad Hatter's first crimes in Robin Year One. In this comic, Tetch hypnotizes teenage girls, giving them free mind control headsets before kidnapping them to become his Alice. Tetch would ensure the girls partook in a surreal tea party before selling them into slavery. This includes Robin's first crush and schoolmates, Jenny. I've always thought the Hatter was underrated. Well, because under the right circumstances, he could easily be Batman's most dangerous villain. His mind control technology is pretty powerful, and if placed correctly, there is nothing to say he couldn't take over any of the most powerful heroes in the DC universe. Only his lack of ambition and absolute madness brought on by subjecting himself to his own technology has kept him from being among the most powerful villains in the DC universe. I think Ventriloquist is one of the most horrifying villains in Batman comic books and series. Not a human-bat hybrid, not a giant crocodile man, and not a crazy doctor in a pig mask, but a human with a puppet of a famous mafia man. What I like about Ventriloquist is that he is just a human like all of us. He looks innocent and average, but with his puppet in his hands, he becomes the most scary villain. You may not understand him at first, and you would think that the puppet is the boss and he is its servant. But then you realize that he is a psycho with a mental illness, who kills people pretending that it's a puppet who is doing the dirty work, not him. Ventriloquist has a split personality, and two of his personalities can be seen in his design. A middle-aged, polite, nervous man is holding the puppet of a violent mafia boss with a Tommy gun. Scarface is his split personality, a more aggressive one that can represent what he truly feels inside and what he wants, and his real self has doubts but does what the puppet says. We don't know entirely if Ventriloquist is actually a psychopath with a split personality or if the puppet is supernatural, but both versions are equally scary to think about. Jonathan Crane didn't exactly have the best upbringing. His path down insanity started because he was desperate to get revenge for being bullied throughout his childhood and adolescence for his lanky frame and bookish nature. He committed his first murder at the age of 18 by brandishing a gun in his high school parking lot during the senior prom. Dressed in the ghoulish scarecrow costume that would later become his trademark, Crane causes the head bully, Bo Griggs, and his girlfriend, Sherry Squires. He would eventually become a psychologist at Arkham Asylum, developing a fascination with fear and doing fear-inducing experiments on the patients there. Despite his scrawny physique, he is a topmost expert on anxiety disorders and psychoactive drugs, and has created fear toxins strong enough to even influence Superman. Continued exposure to the fear toxins have made him immune to his effects, except, of course, for his fear of Batman. Based on statistics alone, the scariest villain would have to be the Joker. Joker kills indiscriminately across all genders, ages, or occupations, often en masse. The regular Joe Soap doesn't have to worry about the Riddler or Bane. The only way you're pissing the Penguin off is if you're involved in a crime anyway. Zsasz can only break into so many homes before he's caught, and honestly just avoid any ice-themed gatherings and Mr. Freeze shouldn't be a problem. But the Joker? He's killed people by order of their names in the phone book, blown up schools to get at rivals, and convinced a family of police officers to kill themselves over the phone. There was also the time he Jokerized every villain in a maximum security prison because he thought he was dying, and of course brought the entirety of Gotham City to its knees in Endgame simply because he felt he was done with Batman. In the realm of Batman comics, you can't really get much further than Joker. No motivation, no incentive, just chaos. Obviously, there are a lot more messed up villains than this in the city of Gotham, and we would love to cover them for you in a future video. So, let us know if you'd like a part 2 of this list down in the comments. And if you enjoyed, consider subscribing to catch more content like this every week. Till next time.